Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Mark Martin. A violent conclusion to a week of terror in France. Suspects from a massacre earlier in the week and from a Friday hostage crisis were killed. The heavy loss of life over the past few days motivating anti-extremist voices across European countries. Heather Sells has more.
When the day started, the two terrorists accused of killing 12 people at a Paris newspaper had been pinned down by police. Then the crisis escalated after another terrorist took hostages at a Jewish grocery in Paris. That standoff ended in a gun battle that killed the attacker and at least 3 hostages. On the other side of Paris, the 2 al-Qaeda-linked brothers emerged from a printing house with guns blazing. They were also killed. Their hostage was freed. The brothers, Saeed and Sharif Kouachi, had told police they wanted to die as martyrs. The 2, both born in France, had been under surveillance by French police for years. In early 2011, the older brother, Saeed, reportedly traveled to Yemen and trained with an al-Qaeda-affiliated group. Saeed's younger brother, Sharif, was arrested in 2008 for trying to join up with Islamic fighters in Iraq. While in prison, he reportedly shared a cell with a key al-Qaeda operative. In Paris and cities across France, people are gathering to pay tribute to those killed at the French magazine.
I'm an art student. We stress freedom when we study art. This attack is shocking. I wrote on the note that we must struggle for freedom from beginning to end.
Meanwhile, in a rare public speech, the head of British intelligence says that al-Qaeda in Syria is plotting large-scale public attacks on transport systems and famous targets in the West. His warning comes as European spy agencies worry about the increasing threat from homegrown jihadists, especially those returning from battlefields in Syria and Iraq. The numbers are alarming. 600 British, 550 German, and some 1,200 French citizens are believed to be fighting in Syria. The big concern is someday they'll return home to their European capitals even more radicalized and ready to kill. Hours after the massacre in Paris, the terror group known as ISIS, or Islamic State, hailed the 2 brothers as heroic jihadists. An ISIS cleric reportedly said his group was responsible for the attack, saying, "We started with a France operation for which we take responsibility. Tomorrow we'll be in Britain, America, and others." Heather Sells, CBN News.
The recent attack is a bleak reminder that Western values are under assault and journalists are getting caught in the crossfire. As reporters try to exercise the freedom of speech, they're being killed in record numbers by Islamic jihadists and brutal regimes. John Wagi explains.
At Notre Dame in Paris, the bells toll. And around the world, demonstrations of support for the journalists at Charlie Hebdo, murdered by Islamist terrorists. In Washington, journalist Stéphane Renaud-Defeat is stunned. He was in the Charlie Hebdo offices in Paris just a day before the shooting.
Just ordinary heroes fighting for liberty of press. I'm really sad first, angry. Really angry as well.
The terrorist attack in France, as well as the gruesome beheadings of journalists in Syria and other Muslim hotbeds, has a chilling effect on the profession. The BBC reported in August that 69 journalists had been killed in Syria alone in just 2 years, although many of them died in battle. The threat is especially great for cartoonists. At San Francisco's Cartoon Art Museum, satire is a central theme of the artwork. Mark Fiore has won a Pulitzer Prize for his.
It's in a lot of ways more effective than the written word, and while this attack is incredibly high profile and incredibly terrible, there are cartoonists that are attacked every year.
Robert Rosenthal at the Center for Investigative Reporting says it's all about intimidation.
Soviet Union under Stalin or the Nazis under Hitler, the Stasi in East Germany. What do they control? They control information. And who do they try and eliminate are journalists or people who speak the truth.
In Northwest Washington, flags at the French embassy fly at half-staff. For now, the Western world is angry and motivated.
I'd like my government to do something about this extremist Muslim. Not the whole Muslim population, but the extremist.
Until then, more journalists will be killed, captured, or forced into hiding while the West figures out how to cope with the assault on its deeply held values. John Waggy, CBN News.
The Christian music world has lost a legend. Gospel singer and songwriter Andraé Crouch died Thursday after being admitted to the hospital Saturday following a heart attack. In his 72 years on earth, Crouch worked with stars like Michael Jackson, Madonna, and Barbara Mandrell. He was also a frequent guest on CBN's 700 Club. Ephraim Graham has this look at his life and ministry.
Now is the day of salvation. My God speaks to every nation.
Andraé Crouch earned his position as the father of modern gospel with hits like Soon and Very Soon, Through It All, and Can't Nobody Do Me Like Jesus. It's a legendary career that began when the California native wrote his first hit at just 14, not long after overcoming a stuttering problem. It's a problem that started at 3, when he was nearly kidnapped outside his parents' dry cleaning business.
My folks saw him carrying me across the street because they heard me let out a yell, and the guy dropped me. And I remember then is when I started stuttering.
Andraé and his twin sister Sandra grew up singing in the church their parents started, and music proved to be the key to ending his stuttering.
My father, with the wisdom of my father, he said, Andraé, you never stutter when you sing. Why don't you act like you're singing when you answer a question? That's the way I started singing, and that's the way I got out of stuttering. So everything sounded like music.
Crouch called his music ability a miracle. He was a master on the piano without ever studying it or reading music. At just 11, his father called him to the front of the church, told him to play, and he did.
All night, all day, angels watching over me, my Lord.
An incredible career followed, from countless hits with his group Andraé Crouch and the Disciples, then 18 solo albums, 9 Grammy Awards, and an honorary Artist in Residence Award from Regent University's International Center of Worship. Still, at the height of his music career, Crouch slowed down on singing and began preaching. He joined his sister to pastor New Christ Memorial Church after they lost their mom and dad to cancer in 1992, and then their older brother a year later. It's a calling Pastor Andraé said God had to literally knock him down in the middle of worship to accept.
I heard his voice say, okay, Mr. Through It All, Mr. Soon and Very Soon, Mr. Take Me Back. You know, name songs. He said, you will not get up from this floor until you tell me yes.
His music career may have slowed down in the 90s, but he was inducted into the Gospel Music Hall of Fame in 1998. And he earned a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2003.
So whenever anybody passes that and they say, who's Andraé Crouch? They said, well, he's thinking about Jesus Christ. That's the part that I'm grateful about.
And his music legacy will live on.
Take me back, dear Lord, to the place where I first received you.
And he will be missed. So many powerful songs. In other news, the House overwhelmingly passed the Keystone XL pipeline bill Friday afternoon, and the Senate is moving forward with it as well, all despite a veto threat from President Obama. Opponents say it could cause devastating damage in the states it runs through, but supporters say it will boost U.S. energy independence and the economy.
We're asking the President again today to do that by working with us to end the gridlock and get this job-creating infrastructure project moving.
The project would provide thousands of jobs. In Oklahoma, workers placed an exact replica of a destroyed Ten Commandments monument outside the state's capital. Last fall, a man destroyed it by driving his car into it. He was later admitted to a hospital for mental health. The state Supreme Court is now considering a lawsuit filed by a Norman man. He says the monument violates a state ban on using public property to support religion. President Obama says he has a plan that would make two-year community college free for, quote, anyone who is willing to work for it. Students would earn half of a bachelor's degree at no cost if they maintain at least a 2.5 GPA. Federal funds would cover 3/4 of the cost, and states would be expected to cover the rest. Up next, NewsWatch continues with Heather Sells. She has the story of an Atlanta fire chief who lost his job, all because he wrote a book for a Bible study.
An Atlanta fire chief has lost his job over comments he made in a book for a men's Bible study. In it, Kelvin Cochran referred to homosexuality as unclean and inappropriate. In November, Cochran was suspended for 1 month. When he returned to work this week, he was fired. In an exclusive interview, CBN News spoke to Garland Hunt, a member of Cochran's legal team, about the situation.
Well, what does the mayor's decision mean for Bible-believing Christians who want to serve in government?
I tell you what, this is a major attack against Christianity and our ability to speak our mind and have the freedom to speak what we think. It's no doubt about it. It's determining the fact that it says Christians cannot lead in the public service or the public service arena at all. Because what he said was that any person that holds this type of belief that's consistent with what the scripture says is someone that cannot oversee a diverse workplace, a person that will create a hostile work environment.
Well, Garland, you actually know Chief Cochran personally. What can you tell us about his faith and his character?
I tell you what, I don't know if I've ever met a more solid Christian man. He actually started and wrote this book because he was actually doing a Bible study in his church. He's a man of great values, great confidence. As a matter of fact, I just got off the phone with him right now. He's a humble man. Even during the period, he would never say one evil word against the mayor, even when he was suspended without pay, because he represents respect and honor. You cannot find a more valiant man of integrity. He and his wife, he's a family man, and he has children. And I tell you what, all of them are standing strong because they are people of faith and they love Jesus.
Indeed. Well, how will he fight this decision by the mayor?
Well, first of all, we're looking at two different angles. One, of course, is Title VII, EEOC. And so that's going to be filed pretty quickly. And then, of course, one of the other things that we're looking at is looking at the whole idea of going to the federal courts based upon constitutional issues that are evidently there. Americans, I'm working also with ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom, actually will also be a part of this as lead counsel. So it's already going up the flagpole with the national help.
Do you think he has a good chance of winning?
Oh, absolutely. Some of the things that the mayor has said in the whole process of this clearly could not be defended in court. I think he has a great opportunity. But I will say, I do not underestimate the LGBT influence in the political realm. So I do believe, because Georgia, as well as this whole issue, is a hot issue with them, I think they're going to come into it with both barrels cocked.
Well, we're certainly going to be praying. Garland Hunt, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
To see more of the interview, log on to cbnnews.com. And up next, a fixture from downtown D.C. with an infectious smile. Hear his amazing story of redemption after 33 years on the street. On any given night in America, more than 500,000 people go to bed without a place to call home, even in one of the world's most powerful cities, Washington, D.C. But there is hope. John Jessup brings us the remarkable story of one man who was homeless for 33 years.
Come rain or shine.
Good morning.
One thing you can count on in the nation's capital.
How you doing?
Is this jolly character selling papers at this busy downtown intersection in Washington, D.C., where Anthony Crawford is always ready to deliver a smile and an occasional hug.
Here go my special friend. I'm good. How you doing? Great.
But it wasn't always sunshine for Anthony. Less than 2 years ago, he was living on the streets.
I first started sleeping right here. Then it got kind of rainy one night. I moved around the corner, moved to this side, then I started sleeping right here.
Across the street from where he used to sleep, Anthony explained how he fell on hard times after his father died.
I was out hanging with some friends New Year's and come home in 1980, found he had passed away.
He started drinking, lost his job and apartment, and drifted from park benches to street corners for 33 years. He tried panhandling.
That's shaking the cup and asking people for money.
But that didn't last long.
I wasn't too fond of that because people look at you sort of different way. They look over you like you're not even there.
Things turned a corner when he learned about a local newspaper called Street Sense.
Get the Street Sense newspaper!
The purpose of the paper is to change people's perception about homelessness.
Have a good one. You too. Thank you. You have a great day.
The bi-weekly publication features articles about and often written by DC's homeless.
This year, Anthony celebrates 10 years as a Street Sense vendor. He buys the paper in bulk and then sells them at a higher price, a $2 donation. He then either keeps the profit to purchase more papers or to pay off his bills. Anthony sees Street Sense as a lifeline that's opened up doors he once thought unimaginable.
It gives me a chance to meet people I never met before, like doctors, lawyers, professional people.
People like Reed Sandridge.
We're the best of friends.
Who, at the time, was also down and out.
I'd been out of work for about maybe 4 or 5 months when I met Anthony. And every day I'd go by 19th and M where he works. He would be there every morning selling the Street Sense paper. And we just became friends. What are you doing tonight?
Anthony credits his friendship with Reed for helping him find a home.
I'd asked him what he wanted to do, what his goals were, where he wanted to be a year from now. And he said he wanted to find housing.
7 months later, they celebrated Anthony signing his lease.
We picked up the keys to his apartment and we came over here, and I still remember him opening the door and looking inside and seeing him make his bed for the first time. I mean, maybe 20 years he hadn't had a regular place to lay his head. And to see him make his bed with pride, and that really touched me.
What was it like the day that you got the keys and you signed the lease?
Oh my God. It was really indescribable because I had such a big smile on my face. It was my place of my own.
Home, sweet home.
Yes, I love my little home. It's all mine.
Anthony is fortunate to have found housing when he did because it's becoming increasingly harder for people like him. While homelessness is on the decline nationwide, it's actually on the rise here in Washington, where the local economy is thriving and causing a housing construction boom. But that also means there are far fewer affordable housing units, which has caused the city's homeless rate to jump 13% over the previous year.
A lot of folks are swarming to the city, but that's dramatically driving up rents. A person would have to be working over 3 full-time jobs at minimum wage in a city to afford a simple 2-bedroom apartment.
While Anthony's grateful just to have a roof above his head, those around him know there's still more to come.
The story isn't over with him finding housing. This is a long process. I think housing is the first step.
Anthony says he plans to get his GED and eventually move on to
social work.
Social work. So you want to help people like you've been helped?
Exactly. I want to be same streets that I come up, pick somebody off with the same streets I came up on.
In the meantime, he plans to keep telling his story and sharing that friendly smile.
Good morning. Happy New Year.
With all who pass by. John Jessup, CBN News, Washington.
Well, the weekend is here, so you may be looking for a little family-friendly entertainment. And here with our regular movie reviews is Bob Waliszewski from Plugged In Online. That's the entertainment review department at Focus on the Family. And Bob, the big movie coming out this weekend is Selma, all about the life of Martin Luther King Jr. Of course, there's been some controversy about the role of LBJ in that movie. But what did you think as far as the family-friendly nature or not of the movie?
This was very middle of the road for me, Heather. On the one hand, it was similar to a movie like Precious or 12 Years a Slave, where I came out of the theater and go, wow, at its heart, this is encouraging, it's inspiring, it's uplifting. But at the same time, I had, on the other hand, some issues with the film. Now, by the way, I want to make sure that our viewers know that it's not birthed to his murder, Martin Luther King Jr. This is begins in 1964 with him receiving the Nobel Peace Prize, and then pretty much goes to 1965 in his march from Selma to potentially, in this movie, to Montgomery.
So we're
And
really
it
just seeing a slice of his life then, but what were the issues that you had, Bob?
Well, the issues I had from a family-friendly perspective were in the language department. In fact, a few harsh profanities, 2 to be exact, that the MPAA has in the past given a film an R rating for, decided to go ahead and give this one a PG-13 rating for. And of course, I walk out of the film going, I wish they hadn't put the language. So I would probably recommend, more than I even have in the past, that our viewers read the longer review to see exactly what we're talking about to get their comfort level. Now, for sure, it's not for younger kids, and it's possibly, I would think, not even for younger teens, but maybe around that age 15 on up, it has some potential. But again, I'm not calling it. I'm just saying very inspiring, but keep in mind there's some harsh language here that for some it's going to be a deal breaker.
Right. Okay. That's all really good information, Bob. And there were also, of course, there's still in the theaters a number of good movies that came out during the Christmas season. When you think about those movies that are still out, what comes to mind that would be good ones for people to catch up on?
Yeah. And by the way, Selma came out on Christmas Day in like New York and Los Angeles, but it's in wide release today. Now, other films that came out, I'm still a big fan of Unbroken. Now, it's a film that a lot of folks will want to see just once and only once because it's gritty and it's raw, dealing with the life of Louis Zamperini in World War II. But there's also Annie. I thought it was cute. Into the Woods, a musical from Disney. We gave it a 3.5 out of 5 for family friendliness. And the new Night of the Museum, the third one, we gave a 4 out of 5. So those are still 4 films, still in the theaters, have potential. Families that with younger kids especially may want to read the longer reviews of those.
All right. Well, very good, Bob. I know we've got a lot of cold weather gripping the nation right now, and that makes it prime movie watching season. So your comments are timely. Thank you.
You betcha, Heather.
And that's it for now on CBN News Today. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues that you care most about at cbnnews.com. And tell us what you think about the stories that you've seen here. You can do that on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. We hope you'll join us next time. Have a great weekend.